here. Oh man, yes, let's just chat on Sundays around 2 p.m. Eastern Time. How it all started with Let's Just Chat. So, for those who are new, and those who may not have heard this yet, but Let's Just Chat started several years ago on Sundays around 2 p.m. Eastern Time in the car. And it started out as just a theme. And over time, it evolved into an actual show. Let's Just Chat show. And then YouTube picked it up and put it in the podcast arena. Okay, so now it's not just the Let's Just Chat show, but it is a podcast right here on the YouTube channel, Narcissism and Cognitive Dissonance, where trauma healing and spiritual growth are front and center while combating radio frequencies for healthier living. Ooh, yeah, and we're doing it one day at a time, every single day, as God reveals more to us about, well, what the devil's up to out there inside that narcissistic matrix, because radio frequency is used to manipulate our autonomic nervous system, the ANS. And the ANS is our inner child. So we are going to do some deep diving into trauma healing for those who need it. Hello, hello. Okay, so you see the like button on your end. I do not see it on mine. Again, another tech glitch. But yes, thank you for letting me know. It is what it is. And we're just going to keep on keeping on. We got to keep it moving regardless. Okay, tech glitches, what have you. We got to keep it moving regardless. And so while those notifications are going out, you know, for those who want to learn more about the autonomic nervous system, the ANS, you can always do your research, because I have provided a lot of real world facts in our inner working course aircraft. Y'all know I can't control outside noises. It is a hotel room. Now at CHA Academy, btbw.com, okay, you want to click on all courses, and you will find the Trauma Intensive Healing Course number 1, Inner Working of the ANS, okay? You have the option of making a one-time payment or 5 monthly installments. Everything's there waiting on you, okay? Ain't no gimmicks. I'm not gonna give no free webinar and tickle your ears. No, the course is there. Short video lessons along with PDF notes, everything's there. It's just waiting on you to enroll. And as with all courses, I do not announce when a course is available until everything is up and ready for you to enroll, and it's right there. Everything you need, okay? So, okay, so there's that. I've got the chat up over here, the other device. I can keep up with it easier there. I see it on here too, but it flashes, it doesn't stay. So I'll monitor it over here, okay? Okay, now, that's a good question. So I want y'all to make sure, even on the replay, don't hesitate to ask your questions. You are allowed to ask questions in this ministry at Consulting for Heightened Awareness, CHA. You are allowed to ask your question. And I learned about the autonomic nervous system, the ANS, during my trauma training with the Arizona Trauma Institute. Yes. So I knew about it. And I was aware that it is our threat detector, but that's as far as it went until the Jezebel case study launched a physical assault. And I turned my ANS into a case study. That's where the inner workings of our ANS course comes from. Yours truly, the guinea pig. Because literally, I was laying in bed one morning and one of the high frequencies went off, and I felt, right there, I mean literally, like whatever metal toxin was there being tugged upward. I felt it and I went, aha! And from then forward, I've been paying attention to how my nervous system responds to different frequencies, to my movements, to our five senses. I learned that our ANS is highly dependent on our five senses: hearing, sight, smell, touch, and taste. Because when you have excess salt, our ANS does not like excess salt, by the way. No, it doesn't. It does not like it. But when there's too much salt stored up inside the body, well, salt is the magnet for radio frequency. It's metal toxicity. So I got my trauma training, and then I also have my master's degree in forensic toxicology. So I had to study all about metal toxicity. It's not a coincidence that when I look at the symptoms of metal toxicity and radio frequency sickness, they're identical. That's not a coincidence. So that being said, our movement combating radio frequency for healthier living is to help heal that inner child as well. Because once you do that, that radio frequency can't manipulate it anymore. Ding, 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 ding. There you go. And you'll feel a lot better. You will no longer be tricked into believing lies about yourself, because you'll know automatically going forward if you've gotten a hold of too much salt and been exposed to a little too much radio frequency. So yes, the ANS, the autonomic nervous system, it consists of your parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system. Okay, 2 in 1. You can learn more about what each system is responsible for. For example, your sympathetic nervous system is responsible for your body's ability to sweat, which the devil doesn't want people to be able to do. The devil and the narcissistic matrix does not want people to be able to sweat. So I heard a lady who admitted that she did not like, going through the day or whatever, and then all of a sudden break out into what the world calls a hot flash. She said she didn't like it. It was uncomfortable. So over time, when people have that thought, remember, your thoughts are spiritual power. Your thoughts control your ANS. So over time, you keep telling yourself that you don't like that. You don't like sweating, out of nowhere, right? And the reason that happened is because there's excess salt in the body, and you were exposed briefly to a higher amount of radio frequency. And so your body's heating up, and it's doing what it's supposed to do. It is sweating to cool the body off. But if you keep telling yourself that that's uncomfortable, you don't like that, then over time, your sympathetic nervous system and the ANS, that part, it's going to stop sweating, because the devil wants you to hold on to as much of that salt for radio frequency poisoning, so that you end up dependent on man instead of being dependent on God. Because once you heal that inner child and you break trauma bond, it's like quadruple game over for Team Devil. I kid you not. Because you ain't going to need a lot of services that are offered inside that matrix when you heal your inner child. You got to become aware of it first. And that's where the course, the Trauma Intensive Healing course, number 1, comes in. To help you understand your ANS and how it is your inner child. And it needs to be healed. You can be healed from, I learned this. That was my biggest lesson. The Jezebel case study has no idea that she gave me many blessings in disguise. Because that was the one thing I did not have yet. I've been reconnected in mind, body, and spirit, yeah. And I understood the ANS and I knew about it, but I didn't know it was our inner child. I didn't know that it could be re-traumatized through a physical assault. Now we know that. But not just that. Radio frequency manipulation between the high and the low. That can keep the ANS traumatized. Because it keeps it confused. It won't know when to relax. And then it will make improper association. In other words, it will make connection to things that are not a threat. It will perceive things as a threat that are not a threat. Especially a hallucination when you have too much salt. That's the metal toxicity talking right there. Y'all, bath salts. Salts are metals. So it's not uncommon to have that as a side effect. That if you overdose on bath salts and then salt in general, if you have excess salt, then one of the common side effects is hallucinations. Yes, that can be sight, sound, touch, feel. That's huge, because that's how the devil uses perception management and keeps people living in fear by keeping the ANF, your inner child, living in fear, because he knows that once the inner child is living in fear, they eventually will going to follow, because our thoughts control the ANF. So what we think matters. So let me go ahead and get to y'all's question here, because that's a really great one I saw. It said, is there a difference between our inner child and being childish or childlike? Yes. A huge difference. When you understand that your inner child is a whole nother being on the inside of you. Your ANS is a whole nother, it's the biological side. We are spiritual beings. Okay, we are spiritual beings experiencing a physical experience. That physical experience being our ANS. And then, of course, other things out here. But in large part, your autonomic nervous system, your inner child, is just a whole nother being on the inside. And it just needs to be coddled. It also needs to be disciplined. In other words, once you become aware of your autonomic nervous system and how it is responding to certain frequencies, certain whatever, okay? Pay attention to that. Next time you're out there and let's say a siren, very common. Next time you hear a siren, stop and listen to your body. And you'll notice how your ANF is responding. And I will tell you that the high frequencies, pay attention to them jaw muscles. Do you feel them jaw muscles starting to tighten up or tense a little bit? There you go. That's the ANS response. And it's conditioned to do that over time with the high frequency. Targeting the jaw muscle to try and tense. Keeping the jaw muscle tense interrupts proper circulation to get oxygen to the brain. And then also to chew your food, because chewing food promotes circulation. Oh yeah, there's a lot to unpack in our movement, Combating Radio Frequency for Healthier Living, regarding healing our inner child. And that's a big part of it, is understanding what the different frequencies are doing to your ANS, to your inner child. Okay? Did someone come and one of these narcissists try to get in your face and yell at you? What'd your butt do? Right? That's an ANS response. Okay? I'm keeping it real. It's that the back muscle back there. That's the first thing that happens is that's a fear response. That's your ANS responding. Okay? Whenever you are around, let's say you're going through a store and it happens to be a little bit louder, just take a moment and stop and go, how is your ANS responding to all of that? Think about your toes. Think about your ankles. Think about that. A tight diaphragm would be another ANS response. Absolutely. Your autonomic nervous system. My late grandpa says it differently, but he means the same thing. It's the subconscious mind, because your ANS operates subconsciously. So I tell y'all, your thoughts are formed in your subconscious mind. That's why I tell you your thoughts control your ANS. You get control of your thoughts, you get control of your ANS. You become aware of it. So when that happens, you start to heal that inner child. And so it's a tight diaphragm, because your ANS is responsible for digestion. It's responsible for your nervous system pretty much is your circulatory system. Think about it. Okay? So if your muscles, okay, are being, let's just say, cooked or depleted, well, yeah, okay, that affects your nervous system, your ANS. That's why I said on the Patreon channel, I talk more about how you repair the muscle, you repair the nerve. How do you do that? Creatine and protein powder. You got to do something. And so once you start to do that, then you will notice your ANS responding to certain things. So yeah, any kind of muscle tension is an ANS response. Absolutely, 100%, because keeping the muscles tense, right, it inhibits proper circulation. That's what the devil's after. He targets our health that way. There's a difference, y'all, between strengthening and tension. Huge difference. But the devil can't tell the difference. So like right now, we've got the locus of control, right? And it may look as though we're tense, but we're not. That's been from muscle strengthening. Okay? There's a huge difference. We can feel the difference. The devil's all about appearances. He can't see the difference. Okay? Keep that in mind too. That's why we tell y'all, forget them, okay? It don't matter what they think. It don't matter what they think they see. We know what's going on the inside. We can feel it. The devil can't see that. The devil cannot. That's why I'm telling y'all, when the people in the previous, that extended stay hotel, when they sabotaged the refrigerator and stuff, they have eyes bigger than their stomach. They thought that we had a bunch of these bruises all over our leg. No, they've been gone. Because they can't see things as they really are. So their predatory behavior caused them to try and see if they could prolong something that it's already healed. So the joke's on them. The areas they were trying to target, they thought they saw bruising with just a little bit of leftover discoloration, because you can press on it all day long, it don't hurt. There's no bruise there. They've been gone. But see, they're idiots, y'all. Narcissists, the evildoers, are idiots. They're going based on what the sight, and their eyes are bigger than their stomach. They perceive things to be real that aren't. And so y'all got to keep that in mind. Okay? But they were trying to manipulate my ANS with all of that. And I caught on to it because I could feel it's trying to tense these up. And I went, oh, no, you don't. That's why I'm trying to tell y'all, you become aware of it. And then you can put a stop to it. You're like, wait, hold up a second. Because you know that's what the devil's trying to do. Okay? And so your inner child, it's just another being. Okay? It's the biological being of who we are. Okay? That's our inner child. And then being childish. The childish behaviors. Throwing temper tantrums as a grown adult, right? We've seen the 70-year-olds throwing stuff on the conveyor belt at the grocery store because whatever, she's having a bad day, he's having a bad day, throwing stuff on and you clearly can see that's childish behavior right there. Okay? And it is related to their ANS because they never grow up. They're toddlers in adult bodies for a reason. And so, and then being childlike, trying to be childlike, yeah, very different. Okay, and you can clearly see when they're trying to do that as a grown adult. That's not normal. Okay, a grown adult should not be acting childlike at all. Okay, keep that in mind. But childlike, acting childlike, trying to be innocent, right? That's why I tell y'all. Okay, there's this childlike glow that we used to see when we would come across a narcissist before we knew that's what they were. Okay, don't fall for that. That childlike appearance, that glow is a trap. Don't fall for that. Okay? But yeah, being childish, throwing them temper tantrums, childlike, trying to act all innocent, very different. Your inner child, your ANS, is your nervous system, and it's a whole nother ball game. It knows its limitations though. That's the thing. We have to learn about it. See, that's the different chosen one, okay? When we become aware of our ANS, we are able to become the parent to it that we need to become. Yes, we do. And so with the Heavenly Father, our ANS has two parents, us and the Heavenly Father. Okay, the God Spirit. So with that being said, we understand during the healing process of the inner child, you are going to coddle it as needed, and you're also going to discipline it. So for example, all right, when mine behaves well, okay, let's say we go to a store, and because your ANS has to overcome things as well, just like we did, okay? When we were getting reconnected in mind, body, and spirit, that's emotionally, spiritually, and psychologically, okay? We didn't know about the physical, the ANS yet, right? So it has to overcome. And so we have to be aware of it overcoming. It has to work things out. You know, those dreams that you have, that's your autonomic nervous system working through whatever it needs to work through. Okay, so no need to be afraid of those. Think about it, okay? That's your ANS just working through whatever it needs to work through in your dreams. So that's why some of them are a little weird. Okay, I had one recently myself. I said, oh, I didn't know she had to work that out. Okay, so we'll just become aware of it and let the ANS work through it. You know how we've told others that, you know, want to try and help somebody else, and like when we tell others who want to help someone who's trauma bonded to a narcissist, we're like, all you can do is tell them that you're there for them when they need them. That's it, because we can't, you know. So same concept applies to our ANS, the inner child, is that when it comes to it working through things in our dreams like that, we just have to let it do its thing, okay, at that moment, and it will. Okay, it will overcome. It will overcome. And then there are other things that we can help together with our ANS overcome together. For example, a smell that we used to not like. We still don't like it, but it doesn't bother us anymore. We overcame it together. That's right. For those of you who are wondering how, well, when you think about an odor that you do not like, what would your ANS is responsible for breathing. My late grandpa talks about that. He talks about how your subconscious mind is responsible for all kinds of biological functions simultaneously even. That if we were to stop and think about each and every single one, we would die within seconds. He's right. Our ANS is responsible for all kinds of stuff: digestion, breathing, muscles, expanding and contracting, tensing, relaxing. Our ANS is responsible for our vagus nerve, is the motherboard of our ANS. The vagus nerve controls how much urine our body outputs. So when we go to the bathroom, our vagus nerve is responsible for not just that, but a lot of other things too, all together. So you get my point about how important it is to heal the inner child, your ANS, the autonomic nervous system, because it is responsible for detoxing. Your body's ability to use the bathroom, your body's ability to stand up, your body's ability to move, your body's ability to talk. Everything that you do, your ANS is a part of, and is responsible for a lot of the biological processes and normal function, and it needs circulation to carry out all those normal functions for a healthy body. So the devil targets our circulation because he knows without proper circulation, our body's not going to get proper nutrition. So healing the inner child by knowing how the ANS is responding to things will help us overcome, and it overcome anything that it perceives as a threat that is not a threat. That's the thing. Your ANS is your threat detector, and if it stays confused, it will make incorrect associations, and that's really a big part of the spiritual battle too, because the spiritual battle for the mind. Remember, our thoughts control the ANS. So if you don't have control of yourself, you don't have control of your thoughts. Think about the narcissist. They don't have control of themselves. They don't have control of their thoughts. They're demonically possessed. Chosen ones, we're not. We become aware of that heightened awareness that we need to have so that heal the inner child so that it can't get re-traumatized again. The only reason mine was able to get re-traumatized was through a physical assault, because we're still connected in mind, body, and spirit. So the Jezebel case study had to launch a physical assault to re-traumatize my ANF. But now, all she did was give me many, many blessings in disguise. That's right. Because we now are aware of the ANF and how it's responding to certain things so we can break negative association. Now, how do you do that? Okay, a big part of how you break negative associations, like, for example, okay, garbage trucks, right? If we happen to be in a room where there's a dumpster nearby, close enough where the garbage truck comes and it's making that loud racket, right? Okay, well, if the ANF is re-traumatized and does not know what that sound is, it's going to perceive that as a threat. So what I had to do, this has been in the very beginning, what I had to do was I had to open up the blind and I had to show my ANF the sound was coming from the garbage truck, and that the beep, beep, beep was the garbage truck backing up. That clash, low vibration and low frequency, was the garbage truck picking up the can and dumping it into the bed of the truck, whatever you call it, I don't know, the bin, and then setting it down. And then backing up with the high frequency, did a low and high frequency manipulation. So my ANS was like, uh-oh, what is that? And was almost perceiving it as a threat when it's not a threat. I had to go and that's why I told y'all in the beginning, your inner child is highly dependent on your 5 senses. This is very, very important. And so I opened up the blind and I said, okay, I'm talking to my inner child. Yes, because our inner child knows our voice. Remember, chosen one, power is in your voice. Our ANF knows our voice. Think about when you were a kid. Before, we didn't know that our parent was at least one was a narcissist. We didn't know that. And then for some of y'all, both. Before you knew that, though, as a little kid, whether you want to admit it or not, if you had a moment of being afraid, but then you heard one of your parents' voices, you calmed down. You may not have been aware of it, but you calmed down, didn't you? Yeah, I had someone tell me that they just remember being in the grocery store and how frightened they were when they turned around and their mom wasn't next to them when they were there just seconds ago. And so the kids running through the store looking for their mother, as soon as they find their mom, they calm down. Your ANF is the same way. When it is trying to perceive things correctly. And so with the sound of the garbage truck, I was able to tell my ANF, hey, listen, little Michelle, that's what I call her, little Michelle, it's just the garbage truck. I had to visually help my ANF make that connection, and then the beeping of the truck backing up. So now, ever since then, she's been good. Every time like here, okay, she knew instinctively when the garbage was being picked up. Oh, that's the garbage truck. No threat. No threat. So no tension, no nervous reaction, no nothing, okay? That's very important. And so we do that with a number of things. If our ANF is making an incorrect association. So, for example, you cook something. Because while you're detoxing, your taste buds are going to fluctuate because you are reducing the amount of salt that you are consuming. As you should for detoxing. And then, of course, if you're active and you're sweating, you are going to want to replenish your electrolyte. Just don't eat the salt like candy. That's the bottom line. Be mindful of it. And so you cook something and you eat it, that day. You've got some left over, you go the next day, because remember, you're detoxing. You go to the next day, and it doesn't taste quite the same, although you didn't do anything to it. It's fine, you know it is. Don't throw it out. Don't let that trick your ANF into thinking, because the devil wants you to think that it went bad, or that you can't eat that, or that you don't like that. Give it another day or so. It'll be fine. Put it back in the fridge. Just don't eat that. Eat something else. Okay? And then when you go back, probably the third day, oh, it tastes fine. It tastes like it did the first day you made it. Because your taste buds are going to fluctuate. So don't let your taste buds trick your ANF into thinking you can't eat this, you can't eat that, because of the taste. Okay? Now, if you do have issues with digestion of certain foods, that's a whole different story. Okay? If your body's just, for whatever reason, not responding well for digesting something, you might want to switch it up. There's other things that you can do in place of whatever nutrient it is you're trying to get. There's plenty of food available out here for nutrition. Okay? And so you don't, if you're having issues with one particular, for example, fellow warriors have an issue with tuna. Okay, substitute it with salmon. Not having any trouble with salmon. There you go. You get your omega-3. All right, that's just one of many examples. You don't want your ANF to get tricked. Okay? And yes, the taste and smell can be interrelated, but also don't let the smell of something trick you into thinking that the food isn't good either. Because a lot of time when you are cooking all natural and herbal, it's not always going to smell that pleasant, but it's going to taste very nice, because your nervous system is going to recognize nutrient. It recognizes nutrition. Believe it or not. Yes, it does. If you use some broccoli, spinach, tomatoes, just no salt added tomato sauce, you make your own little veggie juice, and you go and you drink that, and you don't add salt, put a little bit of garlic powder, maybe a little bit of onion powder, a dash of cayenne pepper for circulation. You put that in your mouth, your ANF is going to automatically grab, because it knows that that's pure nutrition. Okay? Keep that in mind as well. It's part of healing that inner child. Nutrition, it plays a huge role in that. And of course, low carb, high protein, things like that. Absolutely. And so I see there's a lot of comments, so let's go ahead and dive into that. ANF, okay, yes. Thank you, Chris, for jumping in. And then there is also the enteric nervous system. Okay, not heard of this before finding it on the internet. Okay, honestly, I'm not familiar with that either. All I know is you have your autonomic nervous system, which is on the exterior, if you will, even though it's inside of us, but it's not protected by bones and tissue like our central nervous system is. That's the only one I know about. The enteric nervous system, I'll make a note here, but I'm not going to put a whole lot of stock. I don't know. I'll look into it myself too. Okay, and then we were talking about your sympathetic side of the ANF. Okay, it's responsible for your body's ability to sweat, and you are correct, Chris, that, well, a lot of the ladies tend to get more embarrassed about sweating. They think it's not ladylike. Let me tell you something. Yours surely, I will go sit in the car and I will literally I'll sweat on purpose. If I need to get some toxins out, I don't mind. In fact, there's a towel that goes with me on my walks. I'm like, yeah, sweat, baby, sweat. I saw a t-shirt, y'all, this is really cool. I saw a t-shirt, and it was being worn, it was worn by another lady, by the way, and apparently she goes to the gym or does workout, but she got a t-shirt, and I thought it was cute. It said, respect the sweat. I said, yeah. Because you can always take a shower, or if you've got baby wipes in your pocketbook. I mean, come on now. And that's the thing. Healing your inner child requires sweating some of those toxins out. And then take a shower, wash rag to the sink. I mean, it's really simple. Okay, it's not a bad thing to be doing. God designed our biological body to do that. Part of it's getting rid of toxin is through sweating it out. And so, but that's what happens to a lot of people as they get older. They get tricked into thinking it's too uncomfortable or it's not ladylike to sweat like that. And so they convince themselves they don't like sweating. So eventually the ANS, that part, it stops. So they can be out there and it can be like 90 degrees and humid, but they won't even break a sweat because they put their sympathetic, that part, asleep for good through their thoughts. That's how the devil tricks them, because the devil don't want people to be healthy. He don't want people to sweat. He does not. That's one of the things God revealed to me in so many ways, because why do you think you go into a store, okay, like where I'm located, it's like 80, 90 degrees outside. Then you go in and it's like, it's freezing inside that store. But see, a lot of people with a numbed ANS, they don't even notice it. Yours surely notices it, because I'm like, yo, my ANS went, ah, a little cold in here. Yeah. And that's why. Because it'll stun the ANS. But again, most people, if their autonomic nervous system is already numbed from all that radio frequency manipulation, they're not even going to know. That's what happened to all of us until we became aware of our ANS and the fact that it can be re-traumatized if we're not aware of it. So I tell y'all all the time that once you become aware of any of the negative side effects of radio frequency poisoning, you become aware of it and that that's what's happening, and the symptom you are experiencing is a radio frequency symptom, you break the association. It's not going to have the intended negative effect on you anymore. But you have to become aware of it. Just like these narcissists, we have to become aware of their shenanigans. So their shenanigans stop triggering us. Same concept is occurring when you heal your inner child. Your ANS is overcoming triggers from radio frequencies. And then also whether it's a hallucination or not. You got to be able to tell the difference. Okay? So, because, when your body's internal heat is too high, you've got too much salt on the inside, you are going to hallucinate sound and sight and touch. Taste even, smells even. You will hallucinate. Your 5 senses. Okay? So, keep that in mind as well. Now, no, it doesn't, listen, you got to have that discernment. This is a big part of all of that. You got to have discernment, spiritual discernment. All right, to be able to tell the difference. So you can tell your inner child, hey, wait a minute, that ain't real. We still got a little bit too much salt on the inside of us. You thought you saw that. No, because you looked at it and then you looked again and, what, huh? Okay, yeah, don't be confused. All right, but now if you see the behaviors of a narcissist, yeah, you saw what you saw. Okay? So, don't gaslight your ANS. Okay? So, that's true. And so when we talk about another part of healing the inner child is learning to stay away from a lot of the chemicals out here in the matrix, because those chemicals, where there's no radio frequency, there's going to be a chemical. If there's no radio frequency or a chemical to try and trigger your ANS, then the devil wants to try to get you to do it to yourself. Remember that, okay? Same concept with the narcissistic abuse. All right? If the devil can't get to you directly, he sends a narcissist. If that doesn't work, he wants you to self-sabotage. Same concept with radio frequency poisoning for your inner child. Okay? If the devil can't, if there's no radio frequency to manipulate your ANS, then there's a chemical. If there's no radio frequency or a chemical to trigger your ANS, then want to get you through your thought to trigger the ANS. So be mindful of that. Same cycle. Okay? All the way around. Remember, the devil loves his double whammies. So, okay, so extreme response. Well, yes, another fear response is urinating and, going 1 and 2. Yes, that can be a fear response as well. So you'll know, though, your vagus nerve, because excess salt causes you to be jumpy. That's your nervous system. I'm telling y'all, the ANS does not like excess salt. No. It doesn't like it because it's not healthy. So, and then, right, and that, okay, and then a lot of the ANS responses, if they're not correct, okay, if they are not correct responses or proper association to things that, right, in other words, if your ANS is constantly perceiving something as a threat that's not a threat, that's very counterproductive. Okay, very counterproductive to healing, absolutely. And so, do I believe in evolution? Our ANS response is part of our evolutionary survival tactics. I know we talk about evolving and growing and things like that, but I understand Darwin and his theory of evolution. Theory. For those of us who have learned about radio frequency, dust, and animated salt molecules, yeah, a lot of that throws Darwin's theory of evolution out the window. Just saying. So, no, I don't. Not in that sense. Not in the Darwin sense of evolution. Not anymore. It used to make sense, but now with God's wisdom and the spiritual truths, no. No. I understand the biological process for reproduction and things like that, but as far as how plants and animated salt molecules and how all that evolved, it's called dust, salt, energy, frequency, vibration. Okay, there you go. All right. And so if you don't, exactly, that's what I'm trying to tell y'all. The inner child, if it does not know what the sound is, think about when you were a child. If you didn't know what something was, yeah, you're going to be a little frightened until you could make the proper association. Same thing with your inner child. The ANS is the exact same way. The devil knows that. That's why I say all you have to do when you realize that your ANS is responding incorrectly or perceiving a threat where there is no threat, you got to be intentional. If you hear a sound and your ANS goes, you can literally feel, I know I do. If I hear an unfamiliar sound, my ANS stops me and says, uh-oh. I say, hold on a minute. So it's like I got to teach the ANS to not go uh-oh anymore, okay? As it is relearning sights and sounds, things like that. So I will literally go to the window. Like, for example, okay, in one of the previous places that I was staying at, it did not know that it was the sound of a motor running. So it did that momentary freeze, if you will. I said, hold on a minute. I knew what it was, but my ANS didn't. See, that's the key right there. We, as grown adults, this is why I said you become the parent of your inner child, your ANS, as it is healing from being re-traumatized. Or, in a lot of cases for y'all, it's healing from being traumatized altogether so that it won't get re-traumatized. I'm telling y'all, once this inner child is fully healed and you are aware, it can't be re-traumatized again. The devil knows that. That's why he doesn't want y'all. Welcome, okay, to our growing community of spiritual warriors for Christ. So at the previous place, I knew it was the motor running and a vehicle outside, but my ANS did not. So I said, hold on a minute. I walked over to the blind. I opened the blind and I said, see that car? And you see the lights on? She was able, my ANS was able to make, oh, okay, it's the car running. I knew it was, but my ANS didn't. So now the ANS made the correct connection to where, since being here, we know what it is. We don't even have to look out the window now. And she don't respond that way. She don't freeze anymore. She's like, oh, that's a car running. Yes. And now I reward her for that. That's what I was alluding to earlier, is that when our ANS overcomes something like that, it's okay to reward her. Yeah. And when I say reward, I have, okay, something like, I have a semi-sweet baking chocolate. Okay. So one little piece of that, and I will reward her. And it's alkaline. So it's a good reward because of the alkalinity too, because of the excess salt. salt is highly acidic. And then think about it heating up. So there you go. All right. So you want to, there's another trauma healing tip. I dropped that on the Facebook page. By the way, I've noticed that since I now have 20, and we're going to take a break, we have 20 trauma healing tips on our Facebook business page for everybody, and alkalinity is one of them. Okay? So I've noticed that there's been about 33 people that have left the Facebook business page. Good riddance! Because I know that a lot of them were monitoring spirits, waiting to see if what the Jezebel case study did was going to work. That's all they were doing, was sticking around to see if we were going to keep going, if we were going to bounce back, if we were going to figure things out, or become dependent on man, or stay dependent on God. And once they realized that we're going to come out with these trauma healing tips, they realized that we ain't giving up and giving in. And they can see, like y'all can, this whole 180. They see us back into weight training. They see us losing the, you want to call it baby fat again. Oh yeah, they can tell. They can tell that nothing can stop God. And so I wanted to get on here and give y'all all this in one as we talk about it, because you heal that inner child by becoming aware of it. And then you take the necessary action to help it overcome. Okay? And so, okay, so you said, there you go. There's another way for healing your inner child right there is, because remember your ANS is responsible for proper digestion. And so for our fellow warrior that was having tuna issues, said that at least the tuna episode revealed a big air pocket in the diaphragm that needed to be worked out. Guess what? That's how you learn to focus on the lesson and not the negative. Congratulations. That is a huge milestone, Chris. Thank you for sharing that, because that's a real world example of what we teach often in this ministry about changing that thinking and focusing on the lesson and not the fact that, okay, so I'm having issues eating tuna, but that's okay. I got salmon. However, in the meantime, the good news is it revealed an air pocket that needed to be worked out. So there you go. Right, and we don't, right, and so we got to, there is no room for the demon of embarrassment in God's reality. In fact, there's no room for any demon spirit. So there's no reason to be embarrassed about normal biological function. See, that's the thing, y'all. These narcissists and the Matrix wanted to condition our ANS and us to believe that, oh, better not do that. Better not do that. Better not have that. In other words, don't burp. Excuse me. That's the air pocket that needs to go. So yeah, but say excuse me, and we try to not do that, like in public and things like that, of course. But listen, sometimes we can't help it. But be polite about it. But I know that throughout our lives, there's a reason why. Because when we show that we're getting rid of air pockets, I'm telling y'all, because the air pocket is what causes the pain. Radio frequency poisoning. Okay, you know what? Real simple. I got to put together a demo video for y'all. But a quick recap for those who don't know this, what God revealed to me as I'm going through the detox. Because it's not a coincidence that every time I get rid of an air pocket, whatever discomfort, I felt it loosen. For example, here, I felt it loose. And then, like within seconds, that's how quick the body is supposed to be able to get rid of those things. That's not a coincidence. That's how I'm paying attention. So, okay, got rid of that air pocket. Yay. So that means that proper circulation can be restored there. Because if there's an air pocket there, inside the air pocket's a little metal molecule because of salt. And then with a little bit of water. Then you have your salt and you have your mucus. So what the radio frequency poisoning does, heating the body from the inside out, because that salt that's on the inside serves as a magnet. And so where there's an air pocket, that salty mucus is going to gravitate to it. And so as radio frequency is heating up that air pocket, in that little thing inside the air pocket, the salt, heating it up, it expands. As it expands, and that mucus, it push it up again, another salt molecule, and that air pocket, ping, that is what causes the pain. Okay? That's why the narcissist, when we would do that, even though we're polite, we say, excuse me, after burping, and the narcissist will give us a dirty look as if we just did something horrible. That's why. Because less discomfort, the less air pockets your body has, the less discomfort or pain you will experience. That's not a coincidence. Okay? It's really that simple. So, because the devil and these narcissists, they want to keep people, they love that pain and suffering because they feed on it. But we take it away from them when we allow our biological process to take place. Because God designed this body to get rid of that stuff, not to hang on to it. And so, there you go. And when you went through, okay, they were staring at you for no apparent reason. Now you know what it's all about, and it no longer happens, okay? Well, now you know, as a chosen one, and the fact that their demon spirit can tell that we are not like them. They can tell. It's that spiritual energy transfer. I've never seen a convincing argument. Thank you. Okay, yeah, because God is the creator. Amen. Glory be to God. Thank you. Okay, and then no, self-love. No, the self-love is number 20. Trauma healing tip number 20 about self-love through self-care is number 20 on our Facebook business page. That's right. And so, and feel a lot better. Even had some tuna without. Oh, so it wasn't the tuna. Oh, glory be to God. Glory be to God, because tuna is a really great source of omega-3s as well as salmon and other fish. But okay, and other protein and things. So I'm happy that you were able to figure that out. And so you were able, it was just, so you had a air pocket that was, for whatever reason, having a negative interaction with tuna. Interesting. But see that, well, thank you, Jesus. That's all I can say on that. Like, thank you, Jesus. So thank you for sharing that great news. Okay, everybody, see, there is hope right there. Okay, confirm. It was the air pocket and not the tuna. Yeah, all right. That's awesome then. Because you know I got tuna casserole, tuna salads. Yes, you know I'm going to have all this stuff coming to them cooking demos on the Patreon channel. So as part of combating radio frequency for healthier living, and I am excited about it. We are going to be bringing y'all a whole lot more. And right now, because I am still learning on these business trips, I'm still learning. So let's go into a little bit and more there. And keeping the joints open. Yeah, keeping the joint moving. That's the other thing, stretching, okay, y'all? To help heal your ANS real quick. And then we'll get into the and more in just a second. But stretching, yes, thank you, okay? Stretching. And then that's why we got on the journey with endurance training. Because it helped us. We got to stretch, right? And then we got to move. And so your mobility, how well can you know what I'm saying? All right, I got a chair back here, so I can go all the way back and around now. Yeah, so you want to make sure that you keep the joint moving. And then don't forget, animal fats are necessary, not in excess, but necessary for cognitive functioning, but also joint lubrication. Okay, you all? Thank you for hitting the thumbs up. I really appreciate it. Okay, y'all? Thank you for hitting the thumbs up. And, right, and the tuna tin, not the greatest, but, okay. You know what? You can get fresh tuna. There are tuna steaks available. However, you need to remember something. Once you get it out of the can, if you cook it, you're going to cook out a lot of the toxin. There's your tip there. So, the and more I was talking about. We are learning how it works with eating healthier on these business trips. So, right now on the Patreon channel, what I have is I've been posting photos. Okay, and so you're right, as we get accustomed to doing that more often, I will eventually be setting up to do more cooking demos. And along with the cooking demos, I often like to have a story. So if I don't have a story, I feel like, I need to wait until I have a story to go with it. But we'll see. Okay, we'll see, because I like to bring y'all those recipes and the cooking and all of that for our movement as well, and for you. Yeah, cooked tuna, absolutely, absolutely. Okay, in a pan. All right, you got you some noodles. All right, you can make tuna casseroles, real simple. Okay, real simple. Let me type it up in the chat for y'all as I talk it. Okay, a real simple recipe. You can modify this. You can modify this. Okay, so. Okay, a can of tuna, right? Or two, however, it depends on how much you're going to make. Okay, and then I get frozen peas, but if you've got canned peas, that's fine. Peas. And then if you don't have a cream of mushroom soup, you can use, garlic and olive oil. Works just fine with dill or seasoning of choice. Okay. All right, and then noodles, like elbow noodles, for example. Okay, so we do you cook the noodles. Okay. And then mix all of it together. There, I'm just giving you a simple version right there, okay? So if you got a can of tuna, some peas, a can of cream of mushroom soup, or cream of celery, or if you want to do cream of potato, it's up to you. If you don't have those on hand, but you do have olive oil and garlic with Italian seasoning, dill seasoning, or just minced garlic, whatever, okay? And there you go. It doesn't take long to make at all, really. The noodles, you boil the water, you cook the noodles, strain the noodles, you set that aside, then you take the tuna out of the can, put it in the pan, peas, and then whatever the seasoning, and then the soup. Okay, add a little bit of evaporated milk. Okay, that's different, not regular milk, but evaporated milk. Okay, a little bit of that if you want. You don't have to. The creamies, I've done it without. And I've done the cream of celery, and it came out nice and thick and creamy. I didn't need the evaporated milk. So you don't have to have that. It'll tell you on the back of the can, if you're going to eat the soup, then yeah. But no, you're making it as a mix for the tuna casserole. Okay, that's what it's called. And it's real simple. Peas. If you don't have peas, you can use green bean, corn, and, whatever vegetable you fancy. But this is real common, real simple if you've got peas. And onion. Dice up some onion if you want, or onion powder, whatever you have on hand. And it's real simple. So you put the tuna and the peas, and let's say you've got some chopped onion, you put all that in there, and then the olive oil mix or cream of whatever soup, put it in there, you get it warm, okay, let it come to a little bit of a boil, not over boiling, but a little bit to a boil, because you want the salt from that tuna and stuff, you want it to evaporate, right? You want to cook it out. Don't add no salt. And no, you do not have to add salt to the water for cooking your noodles. No, that's a myth. Don't fall for that. Your water will boil in due time just fine without that salt. Okay? You do not have to put salt in the water to boil your noodles. Okay? No. And so after you've got the mix with the tuna and all that, then you put the noodles back in there, mix that together, let those, a dash of cayenne pepper for circulation. Okay, and then you just let the flavors, simmer together, and then turn it off, let it sit, and take the lid off if you've got a lid on it, and let more of that salt evaporate, and let it cool to your liking, and voila. Really simple. And it is you doing it at home like that, it's a lot healthier for you. So you're welcome. And that wraps up this one. Okay, it could have been if it was a canned tuna with a lot of salt in it. That absolutely could have that. And then you got to remember, eating and drinking. Yeah, we do. We take an air pocket anyway. We don't always know about it, but there you go. But yeah, excess salt definitely plays a role. But that's why I'm saying, if you cook the tuna, you will cook a good bit of that out. And yep, yeah, by gulping. Yeah, don't gulp your food. And if you can don't use a straw to drink your drink either. That's a trick. Yeah, your teeth ain't sensitive. Careful what you tell yourself. Your teeth are not sensitive. You're a lot stronger than you think you are. Philippians 4:13, because it is through Christ who strengthens us. Your teeth are not sensitive. No, stop. Unlearn that for somebody. Because if you keep drinking things through a straw, that's a big way of keeping air pockets inside your body. I highly encourage y'all to check it out. Check it out. Check it out. We got something on this channel for all y'all, wherever you're at in the spiritual awakening and beyond. Okay, so... Okay, your inner child suddenly had issue with the no straw policy. Oh. Well, you're going to have to work that out with your inner child. Oh, yeah. There's where your air pocket's coming from then, if you're still drinking through a straw. Yeah, got to knock it off. There's your air pocket issue right there. Along with the excess salt that was in the tuna, yes. But if you are still drinking through a straw, your inner child, that's funny. Yeah, not good, because that's a big way you get air pockets in your body, is when you drink through a straw. So there you go. Your inner child, not you. All right, thank you. Okay, I got you. Your inner child, not you. Okay, good. All right, y'all, keep on keeping on and keep it moving. Sending love and light to all fellow warriors. Thank you for watching, listening, and for your continued support. Till next time, let's show some gratitude to the Heavenly Father, and you keep being you. In Jesus' name, amen.